Hello everyone, welcome to Brilliant Public School online edu classes. Today we are going to learn Nazism and the Rise of Hitler, which is chapter number 3 of class 9th history. In this chapter we will discuss about the reason for Germany's defeat in First World War. After that, the birth of Weimar Republic. And with the birth of Weimar Republic, what was the impression of people and the effects of war on Germany? Soon after that, because of effects of war and birth of Weimar Republic, there came a political radicalism and economic crisis. With economic crisis, the years of depression, and in this depression, this gave path to a leader named as Adolf Hitler. So we'll be discussing about the rise of Hitler. The chapter begins with a story of a 11-year-old German boy whose name was Helmut. It was in the spring of 1945 when he overheard his parents discussing something in serious tone. His father was a prominent physician, deliberated with his wife whether the time had come to kill the entire family or if he should commit suicide alone. His father spoke about his fear of revenge, saying, "Now the Allies will do to us what we did to the crippled and Jews." His father was a great supporter of Hitler. The very next day, he saw his father's bloody uniform being burnt in family fireplace. He was so traumatized by what he had overheard and what had happened that he reacted by refusing to eat at home for the following 9 years. He was afraid that his mother might poison him. Although Helmut may not have realized all that it meant, but as his father had been a supporter of Adolf Hitler, you probably know of Hitler's determination to make Germany into a mighty power and his ambition of conquering all of Europe. You may have heard that he killed Jews. But Nazism was not one or two isolated acts. It was a system, a structure of ideas about the world and politics. So, let us try and understand what Nazism was all about. Let us see why Helmut's father killed himself and what was the basis of his fear. In May 1945, Germany surrendered to the Allies, anticipating what was coming to them. So Hitler, along with his propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels and his entire family, they committed suicide collectively in the Berlin bunker in April. At the end of the war, an international military tribunal at Nuremberg was set up to prosecute Nazi war criminals for crimes against peace, for war crimes, and crimes against humanity. I repeat, crimes against humanity. Germany's conduct during the war, especially those actions which came to be called as crime against humanity, raised serious moral and ethical questions and invited worldwide condemnation. Do you want to know what were these acts? These acts were like genocidal war, mass murder of selected group of innocent civilians of Europe. The number of people were killed, including 6 million Jews, 3 lakh gypsies, 1 million Polish civilians, 70,000 Germans who were considered mentally or physically disabled, beside innumerable political opponents. Nazis, they devised an unprecedented meaning of killing people. That is, by gassing them in various killing centers like Auschwitz. Many gas chambers were being made. So, the Nuremberg tribunal sentenced imprisonment, but only 11 leading Nazis were being sentenced to death. Many others were imprisoned for life. The retribution did come. Yet the punishment of the Nazi was far short of the brutality and extent of their crimes. The Allies did not want to be as harsh as Nazis on defeated Germany as they had been after the First World War. Everyone they came to feel that the rise of Nazi Germany could be partly tracked back to the German experience at the end of the First World War. So let us know what was this experience, how Nazis they came in power. Germany was a powerful empire in the early years of 20th century, fought the First World War 1914 to 1918 alongside the Austrian Empire, Italy, Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and against the Allies they were Russia, France, and Britain. All they joined the war enthusiastically, hoping to gain from a quick victory. But it came out to be a long term war, which eventually drained the resources of Europe. Germany made initial gains by occupying France and Belgium. Anyhow, the Allied power became more powerful when USA joined the First World War from Allied side in 1917, and Allied power they won the war, defeating Germany and the Central Power in November 1918. With the defeat of Imperial Germany and the abdication of the Emperor, it gave an opportunity to the parliamentary parties to recast German polity and form a national assembly. A national assembly met at Weimar and established a democratic constitution with a federal structure. Now, the deputies were elected to the German parliament, which was also known as Reichstag, on the basis of equal and universal votes cast by all adults, including women. People largely did not accept and welcome the formation of Weimar Republic as because of the terms it was forced to accept after Germany's defeat at the end of First World War. The peace treaty of Versailles with the Allies was a harsh and humiliating peace. You know what happened in this peace treaty of Versailles? Here, Germany lost its overseas colonies, a 1/10 of its population, 13% of its territories, 75% of its iron, 26% of its coal to France, Poland, Denmark, and Lithuania. The Allied powers they demilitarized Germany to weaken its power, and the war guilt cause held Germany responsible for the war and the damages the Allied countries they suffered. Germany was forced to pay compensation amounting to $6 billion. The Allied armies also occupied the resource rich Rhineland for much of the 1920s. Many Germans held New Weimar responsible not only for the defeat in war but also the disgrace at Versailles. This long term war had a devastating impact on the entire continent, both psychologically and financially. So, from creditors, Europe turned into one of the debtor. Socialists, Catholics, and Democrats, those who supported Weimar Republic, they came to be known as November criminals, and they were being targeted by the conservatives, which impacted the political development. There came change in society. Also, like soldiers, they were placed above civilians but lived miserable life. Democracy was a fragile idea there. People lost confidence in government. The birth of Weimar Republic coincided with the revolutionary uprising of the Spartacist League. Spartacist League were on the pattern of Bolsheviks of the revolution in Russia, who later on founded Communist Party of Germany. The Soviets of workers and sailors were established in many cities. The political atmosphere in Berlin was charged with the demands for Soviet style governance. Those opposed to this, such as the Socialists, Democrats, and Catholics, they met in Weimar to give shape to the Democratic Republic. The Weimar Republic crushed the uprising with the help of Free Corps or War Veteran Organization. Communist and socialist henceforth became irreconcilable enemies and could not make common cause against Hitler, which gave rise to political radicalization. Political radicalization was only heightened by the economic crisis of 1923 when Germany had fought the war majorly on loans and had to pay the war reparation in terms of gold. This depleted the gold reserves at a time resources were very scarce. In 1923, Germany refused to pay and the French occupied its leading industrial area, that was Ruhr region, to claim their coal. Germany retaliated with passive resistance and started printing paper currency recklessly. The paper currency was known as mark. With too much printed currency in circulation, the value of German mark it fell. In April, the US dollar was equal to 24,000 mark. In July, it became 3,53,000 marks. In August, it became 4 crore 6,21,000 marks. The figure had run into trillions. As the value of mark collapsed, price of good increased. The image of Germans carrying cartloads of currency notes to buy a loaf of bread was widely publicized. This crisis came to be known as hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a situation when prices rise phenomenally high. Eventually, the Americans they intervened and helped Germany to come out of this crisis by introducing the Dawes Plan, which reworked the terms of reparation to ease the financial burdens on Germany. The years between 1924 and 28 was termed as the years of depression. Let's know why depression. Germans, their recovery was dependent on short-term loans from USA. All of a sudden, there was a new problem, a sudden problem emerged when the Wall Street Exchange, that was world's biggest stock exchange, it crashed in 1929. Fearing a fall in prices, people they made a frantic efforts to sell their shares. On a single day, on 24th of October, 13 million shares were being sold. This was the start of great economic depression. Over the next 3 years, between 1929 and 32, the national income of USA fell by half. Factories were shut down. Exports fell. Farmers, they were the worst hit. Speculators withdrew their money from the market. The effects of this recession in the US economy were felt worldwide. The German economy was the worst hit by the economic crisis because anyhow USA was supporting Germany and Germany had signed Dawes Plan. So according to the plan, now when USA asked for the loan amount to be repaid, Germany doesn't have any other option other than paying the amount back to USA, which made the condition of Germany more poor. By 1932, industrial production was reduced by 40% of the 1929 level. Workers they lost their jobs or else they were paid less wages. The number of unemployment it reached to 6 million. People were on the street with the placard around their neck stating willing to do any work. The economic crisis created deep anxieties and fear in people. The middle class, especially salaried employees and pensioners, they saw their savings diminish when the currency it lost its value. Small businessmen, the self-employed retailers, they suffered as business got ruined. These sections of society were filled with the fear of proletarianization, which means to become impoverished to the level of working classes. There was an anxiety of being reduced to the rank of working class, or worse still, the unemployed. Only organized workers could manage to keep their heads above water, whereas the big business was in crisis. The large mass was affected by sharp fall in agricultural price, and women were unable to fill their children's stomach. Politically, Weimar Republic was fragile. The Weimar Constitution had some inherent defects which made it unstable and vulnerable to dictatorship. One was proportional representation. You know what do you mean by proportional representation? It was made achieving a majority by any one party a near impossible task, leading to rule by coalition. And the another defect was Article 48. Article 48, which gave the president the power to impose emergency and suspend civil rights and rule by decree. Within its short life, the Weimar Republic saw 20 different cabinets lasting on an average of 239 days and a liberal use of Article 48. Yet, the crisis could not be managed. People they lost confidence in the democratic parliamentary system, which seemed to offer no solution. I hope you could imagine how pathetic was the condition of Germany that time. People, there was no political stability, no economic stability, and in this political deficit or economic deficit, it gave path to uprising of Hitler. So in next part we would be discussing about the rise of Hitler, how Hitler rose in power, how and even who was Adolf Hitler.